everybody, and welcome to Epic Everyday, our weekday podcast for busy, stressed out Christians who don't want to just get through the day and instead want to have zest and thrive. I'm Liz Frericks, and this is my husband, Evan.
Good morning.
We're so glad you guys are here with us today on this wonderful Tuesday.
We're going to continue our discussion about boundaries this week. Talking about surrender today.
So boundaries are, well, I said yesterday, they're saying no. But, we talked about our 4 gardens yesterday. The person that has no boundaries and lets anybody come in and take their resources whenever, their time, their money, their energy, their skills, talents, etc. The second garden is the person who has just walls. Nobody can get in. So they can't receive love. They can't give love. They're just, I don't know what you want to call it.
They're kind of sealed off. Yeah.
Yes. And then you have the person who has walls and a gate, but instead of letting in the good and keeping out the bad, they let in the bad. They let people steal from them. But then they can't accept, good. They can't accept love. They can give love without accepting love. And frankly, I would argue that letting someone come in and steal your fruit doesn't count as giving
you're
love.
Not really. Right.
If there's no decision behind it and intentionality, is it really love? And then the last garden, which is the one we want to be like, has a gate and walls, and the gate lets in the good and keeps out the bad.
So I think that that third kind of garden is what I was thinking about for today, although I think we can make surrender applications to all of them. But that kind of one-sided relationship that's not really love, but the person may feel like, oh, I give so much, and like they just think love is only self-sacrifice, I guess.
Right.
And that's a lack of boundaries, and that's a big problem, especially when we're trying to get things done in the church. I mean, we're going to end up with a bunch of people doing work and being resentful about it in that instance there.
Yeah, I think, we have this mistaken idea sometimes that love means never saying no.
Yeah.
If somebody says, can you do this? We say, yep. And
there's a song, I'll never say no to you.
Yeah.
What is that from, My
now
Fair Lady or something?
The Unsinkable Molly Brown.
Oh, Molly Brown.
Yes.
But that's so ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, and I think when we do that, loving ourselves and loving others should be scales that are perfectly balanced. Mm-hmm. That we're loving ourselves and loving others equally. We're not neglecting either of those things. But when we just say yes all the time, that means we're giving all of our resources towards whatever, and none of our resources towards taking care of ourselves. And so those get totally out of whack.
Yeah. And let's talk about what that feels like. I mean, so we're like, oh, that kind of makes sense, but what would that even feel like? And I think feels like resentment, I think, is going to be a big indicator. Like if you're resenting doing this thing you said you'd do, that could be it. If you feel like somebody's obligating you, like you got voluntold to do something.
That's such a great word.
And so then it's like, like anything that when you start to do it, you start to go, all right, I guess I'll go teach Sunday school to 8-year-olds, and like you walk in there with that cloud over your head.
Right.
And anything that's where guilt is kind of your main motivation. Like you got guilted into something.
Not a like, oh, that's what God's called me to do, but a like, somebody needs to do this and it might as well be me.
Right. That's internal pressure too. It doesn't always come like, unfortunately that happens all the time in church too, where it's like, well, nobody else is doing it. I guess I better do it.
Right.
And sometimes we got to do some of that, I think, but that can't be our only ministry outlet is just stuff like that.
Right.
Sometimes we need all hands on deck and we do things that push us out of our comfort zone. But yeah, if your primary ministry outlet is just that begrudging, okay, I'll do it, that's a big problem.
Well, and I think we can do things like that, but it's the motivation that's the problem. Just like Jesus talked about how the Pharisees were whitewashed tombs, beautiful on the outside and, disgusting.
Dead on the inside.
Right. And I think sometimes that's what no boundaries looks like. It looks like doing these things that are the quote, right things to do.
Yeah.
And that, look awesome on the outside and maybe you look extra together on the outside and all that kind of stuff. But on the inside, you're just being eaten alive because you're frustrated and angry and tired. And
yeah, it makes you wonder what the internal landscape of those Pharisees is like. I mean, they are like, everybody's like, oh, they're so holy and religious and good. But I mean, we get to see through that a little bit in the Gospels. I mean, they're so angry when they get challenged in that idea. It's like we tend to grow into that kind of legalism and stuff too. And if we get challenged a little bit and we get ultra extra defensive and angry, like that could mean that there's it's not a motivation of love in there. It's some other, like we're trying to manage our own holiness at that point.
Yeah, or prove some belief that we need to be true for some reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I guess so. The point I was saying, like, they're not so in love with the law. Like every little law that they're obeying, they're just like, oh, I love doing this for you, God, so much. I love obeying you. I love honoring you in this way. It's like, that's not their motivation. It's like, if I don't do this, the other Pharisees are going to call me out and I'll get in big trouble. And, I won't look so important anymore. I won't have as much power over my fellows.
Like Jesus says how they get their reward now because they show when they're fasting. They pray loudly on the street corners. Like they want to put on a show for people.
Yeah.
And I think, that kind of service it's like building a straw house. Yeah, maybe it looks functional, but it's not really functional. Like Paul says in 1 Corinthians 13 that without love, it's worthless.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think that's the thing. Like we need to get to a place where we're operating in love. I mean, that's the whole point of Jesus said that all the commandments are boiled down to love God and love others.
Right.
Not, tie the 10th of your dill.
Exactly.
And so that is our motivation for what we say yes and no to. And that's why we have a good operating wall and a gate around our garden.
Totally. And I think when you look throughout Scripture, you can see people saying no and doing it well. I was just thinking about, Mary and Martha in Luke 10, where Mary, all the time we talk about how awesome it is that she chooses to sit at Jesus' feet. But when you look at the stuff that Martha's doing, it's stuff that needs to be done. Yeah. Like it's and
nobody else is doing
cooking meals, making sure that everything's good to go for, like, it's the hospitality part.
Yeah.
And so that's why she's frustrated that Mary's not helping her. But what Mary's doing is she's saying no to the stuff that still is like it looks good. It looks, I don't know. When I realized that was such a heart check for me, because it's easy for me to get caught up in making sure that, the house is clean and the kids are washed and, that things look good on the outside.
Right, because that can be an indicator that things are good, but it also could be a big show.
Right. But it's just the stuff the everyday stuff, the things that have to get done. At least in my brain, they're like, well, it has to get done. We can't just let the dishes go for a month, I
struggle with that too, because, I mean, it seems like there is piddly stuff that is part of our calling is to have this family and to be parents. And so along with that comes all that stuff.
Feeding the kids.
And so, even though, like you said yesterday, we said hell yes to having a family and being married and having children, that's a high calling, and we got to keep saying yes to that calling.
Right.
And, it gets tricky. I think we have to surrender to God's idea of what it all is. He called us to this, and we said yes to it, and now he can sort it out and fill our hearts with love even when we're doing the dishes. But I struggle with the exact same thing.
Right. Well, and I think, as a parent, I can see much easier how saying no can be a loving thing. Mm-hmm. Like when our kids are like, can I have candy now? I'm like, no.
Right.
Can I go play down the street by myself in this crazy part of...
Can I play in the street?
Right. No.
Mm-hmm. That does come out of a place of love.
Right. And it's not just like, hey, I'm trying to kill your vibe there. It's just no, I want you to be safe and I love you. And so, no, maybe you think those things would be fun, but no.
Yeah. And so the same way in relationships, right? If somebody is asking you for something and you say no to it, or you say yes, you want there to be a really good reason behind that. And a reason that comes out of your care for them and your care for your mission and respect of, them and their mission too. Like we're a body. We're supposed to function together. I mean, an eyeball and a toe have very different jobs, but they still have a relationship with one another.
Definitely.
I mean, the eye's watching out for the toe. We hate it when we stub our toes, don't we?
Seriously. All right. Well, hopefully that gives us all something to work on today.
Yeah.
I know I need to work on the love thing, like making sure that my motivation really is love, even when I'm doing random stuff around the house.
Yeah.
That's actually one of the things I love about Fly Lady, she's got a house cleaning system, and a lot of it has been really great for us, and some of it we totally don't use. But one of her things is that when you're cleaning, you should be thinking about, I'm blessing my family right now.
Yeah.
Instead of just being like,
Sure. Yeah. Oh, and what have you been saying recently? Pick today whether your day is going to be epic or not.
Yeah.
And this is a huge way to do that. Okay, I looked at my day and it's laundry day and I hate it. But how can I still make it epic and answer in
or
love?
I have to keep going to work and answering phones and,
I've got that hour-long commute. It just drives me nuts. And all I think about is how much gas I'm burning and how much it's costing me.
And I'm going to fill this form out 1,000,000 times today.
Yeah. I mean, these are parts of our callings.
Yeah, but the key is love. So think about where you're doing on that and how you can inject love into whatever it is that you're doing. And if you can't, then definitely you should be saying no to that. Although obviously, and it's the Lord that gives us love, so we need Him to inject His love into our hearts so that we can then love in the middle of it. So it's not like we just have to muster up love.
Right. We're not perfect gatekeepers. I mean, we might be saying yes to things we should say no to, and vice versa. We won't know that unless we have God's insight and God's guidance.
All right, we love you guys and we're praying for you. Thanks to everybody that's been sharing the show and listening to the show. We really appreciate it. If you have found this podcast helpful, please do continue to share it. If you haven't signed up for our email list, do that. That way you get a list of all the episodes. I know some people only see Monday's episode for some reason,
So tomorrow we'll talk about some of that stuff we just said, saying yes and no based on living out of the essence of who God called us to be. That's being centered.
Yep. It's going to be awesome.
Yep.
All right. Have an awesome Tuesday, you guys. Today should be awesome, so make it awesome.
Yeah. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.